Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Red Cup Review. This is Red Cup Live, and it's Saturday night, and you guys know where it's at. I am your host, Rob Banks, and I am joined always by my better half, Baz, from the Source Wall with Baz. Say what's up, Baz.
It's Darth Baz this week.
Very freaking cool. And we also have my boy, the Paradox Nerd, dropping in. He's had a busy week. He just picked up some hot toys. What's up, Paradox?
I too.
Shit.
Paradox. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.
That's awesome.
We are also joined for the first time by the Sinister Collector. Welcome to the show, brother. Good to have you on.
Hey, thanks for having me. This is fun. I wish I would have brought both of my lightsabers down too.
Very cool. That was a surprise. And from the outer reaches of the collector community, Knack's Plastic Planet. Knack, how are you?
Hey, I am fantastic. Thanks so much for having me on again, Rob. It is always a pleasure to join you guys right here on the Red Cup Review.
Very cool. All right, we're gonna launch the show. Right before we get into that, everybody that's a viewer right now, make sure you like the video. Drop us a line in the chat room. Remember to talk to each other, and let's keep this stuff live and going. And if you are not a subscriber, make sure you subscribe to not only the Red Cup Review, but everybody else that's in the chat right now. So you have Knack's Plastic Planet, you have the Source Wall with Baz, you have the Paradox Nerd, and you have the Sinister Collector. Make sure to throw a subscribe to each and every one of us. Please remember this week, as well, for the last few weeks and for the next few weeks following, we are sponsored by The Collector's Resource. That's thecollectorsresource.com. And they, of course, have supplied me with these beautiful CGC wall-hanging frames. And this week, the comic that is featured is the first Green Lantern Rebirth. And check this out. Let me get this in front of the screen for you guys so you guys can check this out. What I have here is a 9.6 Green Lantern Rebirth CGC signed by Alex Ross, Ethan Van Sciver, and Jeff Johns.
Wow, that's awesome.
Oh, it's awesome.
And what's really cool about this is not only is this like basically at one point when Jeff Johns pretty much saved the DC universe when he started writing for them, and he teamed up with what I consider to be a modern master. I'm sure Baz can attest to this as well, Mr. Ethan Van Sciver, who's now associated with All Caps Comics. And today I was just messing around with Twitter. So if you guys want to follow, you guys, first of all, should already be following on Instagram and Facebook at Official Red Cup Review. And now I'm on Twitter, so you can find me at Official Red Cup Review on Twitter as well. I don't have that many followers. I don't even really mess with Twitter all that much. However, today I was messing around. I had just finished reading the Dark Side War, and I threw a tweet out saying that that Jessica Cruz, the new female Green Lantern, was the correct way to introduce a new female character without it feeling gimmicky and contrived, and was done very well. She's an awesome character, and she was written extremely well in that series. And I put it up, and Mr. Ethan Van Sciver actually liked the tweet. So that was a big surprise to me. I was pretty happy by that. I know that a lot of people on social media could talk to these famous people all the time. I don't really mess with it all that much except for Facebook and obviously the YouTube stuff. So to me, it was a big deal. So I had my little nerdgasm geek out moment where I was like, hey, Ethan Van Sciver liked the tweet. So I wanted to kind of showcase his comic as well as the frame that you can get for your CGC and regular comics too. If you want to just put regular comics on the wall, they have frames for that too. And that's Collector's Resource at collectorsresource.com. Okay.
That's awesome, because usually when I throw out a tweet, my mom just likes it.
That's the problem, is that every time I put something up, my mother and my aunt are like the first two to like it, and I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks for the support.
It's funny because, I try not to tell my mom I have a YouTube channel because I don't want her to what's that? You're collecting toys again? I'm like, oh, all right, Mom, leave me alone.
The collecting thing for me actually originated probably. I grew up in my grandparents' house, but we all my parents got divorced. I moved in with my grandparents. My mother moved back home as well, and my brother and I grew up in my grandparents' house. My grandmother was a big collector of clowns, like clown statues, the old hobo type clown statues that whistled and shit when you wound them up. And she collected a ton of these things and a ton of dishes and plates with different artwork of clowns and stuff. She was obsessed with it. So that's probably where I get my collecting. I have to, that's probably where that stems from. So I get to kind of go over there and still see her and stuff during the week. And I'm like, hey, Grandma, look at my collection. This way she still has her stuff too. So that's kind of where that rolls into the whole, oh, mom's liking the tweets now and all that shit,
It's awesome.
But
That's a great connection.
anyways, we're going to start the show. The people have waited enough. We are at 10:05. Okay, real quick, we're going to go through this episode is the big Star Wars episode. We're going to be talking about the prequels. That's going to come a little later on in the show because we have a little bit of news that we have to get to first. I want to shout out, take a look at the chat room real quick. Rob, just a fan. Hey, been on long, just finished watching Black Panther. No, we have not been on long. We are here at 10 o'clock every Saturday night, so you're just in time. Makes me want Hot Toys Throne. Let's see. Mom collected Emmett Kelly's too. Yes, that's it. Emmett Kelly's. Kev's Matrix with the freaking good catch, man. Okay, and then everybody else. Let's see. Oh, Jay Rico. Shout out to my boy Rob. Keep doing your thing. Yes. Oh, Jay, how's it going, man? How are you? Good to see you again. It's always great to see a face of a person I actually met and know that's not like a personal friend that I've known for 100 years. But anyways, news of the week. We're going to start off with John Cryer being cast as Lex Luthor in the Supergirl TV show. What do you guys think? Are worlds colliding? Is this like meant in the universe that Lex Luthor's nephew is out actually Lex Luthor or what?
Yeah, it's like a cool nod to I guess what was that, Superman 4. But it's kind of like John Cryer is kind of more like a a Batman versus Superman type Lex, kind of skinny type scrawny character, So whatever. Yeah,
again, I'll reserve judgment to see. That'll be like one of the only times I tune into Supergirl because I'm not like a fan of that. I mean, I'm a fan of the show. I want to be a fan of the show, put it that way. But I'll tune in to see what his deal is. Anybody else watch Supergirl? Have any idea about John Cryer or any opinion thereof?
Yeah, I didn't make it through the first 3 episodes of that series, although she's very attractive. That's all I got.
All right, cool. All right, we're gonna keep it moving then. All right. Other news this week. Obviously, the big thing, the big deal. Rest in peace, Stan Lee, co-creator of the Marvel Universe. And I will start off by saying that Stan Lee was an cultural icon. A lot of people, I think, overly give him. They give him so much love, and he deserves it. He deserves a lot of the love he gets and admiration. But a lot of people forget that Stan Lee was a co-creator, not an official creator. Now, I was tossing this idea around in my head today where I seen a lot of people like literally crying over the fact that Stan Lee passed away. And the guy was 95 years old. He lived a great life. I had a chance to meet him once. You could see that a few videos ago. I put up this whole Tales from the Red Cup where I talk about the time I met Stan Lee. And he was a great dude. He was fun. And I think that's where a lot of the lore comes from, is that he was the face of the Marvel heroes. Like, he actually, I saw someone write today on the internet that he transcended the comics. Like, he went beyond just the guy who was the editor or the dialogue writer or the idea man, and was able to cross over. And I know a lot of people on the other side, puberty, say stuff like, Jack Kirby was the real creator of the Marvel Universe, and Steve Ditko and Don Heck. And they're right. Those guys were the true storytellers and crafters of this universe we all love so much. However, Stan Lee, and this just occurred to me today, really, and sometimes you just need someone to smack you upside the head, transcended that and brought himself out. He was like, if the Marvel Baz, you could kind of maybe relate to this the most. If the Marvel Universe was Kiss, he was the Gene Simmons of the Marvel Universe, the guy that was out front, constantly promoting, being the face. I mean, he was shaking people's hands, kissing babies, and he became a superhero, almost like a real life superhero himself. I'm going to turn the floor over to you guys. Go ahead, toss it around. Rest in peace, Stan Lee. What do you got?
Yeah, I'll start. If you don't mind, I'll just, I've never been a big Marvel guy. So, I didn't have any kind of, uber super attachment to Stan Lee. I remember him doing some kind of like cameo back in the 80s on the Spider-Man and Friends cartoon series. So that was like my first memories of Stan Lee per se. He definitely was, in my opinion, in most people's opinion, he was one of the greatest marketers of all time. No one could market a product better than Stan Lee. He was like the ultimate pitch man. He was like the ShamWow guy on Uber steroids. He was a great ambassador for geek culture. I've seen that written this week, and I totally agree with that. And I think that he was very much the face of comic books, and I don't think anyone can take that away from him. I think that's definitely his legacy.
I definitely agree with Knack that he is the greatest marketer for Marvel Comics. And from where they started through the struggles of the 90s to, them selling like the rights to Sony, to Fox, and then starting their own like Marvel Studios, Empire. Let's say Empire right now. He's done a lot for pop culture, for my childhood, for everybody. Even now, like my kids love Marvel. They love Spider-Man. They love pretty much everything that they see now. I grew up with, they like, which is, as a parent and as a dad, you love to see your kids love the things that you do. So it's all thanks to Stan Lee for helping create these characters that we love and we grew up with, that transcends to many generations going forward. So, definitely rest in peace, and thank you, Stan, for all what you have done for pop culture and pretty much for everybody.
Baz or
rest in peace to a historical character. I mean, Marvel is one of the big two. We're never gonna see or have an era like this ever again. And he was a big part of it. Some people think he was a little too much of a big part of it. They think that he was the sole creator of a lot of these characters, and unfortunately, because of that, guys like Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko are forgotten. But he was a great promoter of the brand and the face of Marvel. So rest in peace.
So my first, I think, if my memory serves, which it probably doesn't, with all the stuff I did in high school, but I think that I believe the first time I saw Stan Lee was when he did one of those cartoon intros. I don't remember which cartoon it was. I want to say it was Fantastic Four, but this is in either the 80s or 90s, and I don't remember which. But, he'd always do the, welcome true believers, and that was always like a cool thing because he was always like, every time I saw that intro, he's like, felt like he's like a, your friendly neighborhood grandfather or something, type of thing. And then I think the next time I saw him was on that Comic Greats thing where he'd have some of the artists, Marvel artists on there. And that's kind of when I found out about Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane and whatnot. And, at least got to attach a name to a face and see how friendly he was and they were with him. So it meant a lot to me because I grew up an X-Men fan, mainly X-Men, a little bit of Spider-Man, but and then Spawn. So he won't be forgotten.
Yeah, totally, guys. And I was listening
to Bill Maher caught a lot of
I'm going to get to the Bill Maher thing in a second, but I do want to say that I'm of the camp that me and Baz years ago had this thing going on where he was, just I don't even know if you were just getting into Jack Kirby, but you started becoming a big time Jack Kirby fan, like even more than I had remembered from that point before. And I used to break your chops all the time by saying, nope, Stan Lee was the true creator. Now, I knew what was going on. I was being stupid, just trying to kind of needle my friend from years ago. And he used to be like, damn it, it was Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, not just, these guys get forgotten and stuff. But I used to break his nuts about it. And, I'm sure if Jack Kirby or Steve Ditko or any of these guys passed away in the age of social media, they would get a lot of recognition that they didn't get when they actually did pass. But we're living in a different time now. So I'm listening today, Stan Lee in an interview in 1987 with Jack Kirby. Now, Jack Kirby was doing an interview in New York on the radio, and Stan Lee actually called in, and this is back in 1987, and this was during Jack Kirby's 70th birthday. And this was a quote that I took, and I'm not quoting him directly. I have most of what he says down, but he said that comics are the last bastion for literacy among young people. They can relate to and in essence then enjoy reading. So in 1987, you got to figure like the state of what New York was in at the time, because he's from New York, right? And who the hell wants to read, right? We grow up, we have to read like They force reading on you in school, right? Well, a lot of kids turn to comic books and learn to read from that. I didn't learn to read from comic books, but it sure as hell didn't hurt the fact that I was reading them at the time as well. So a lot of truth there, right? In how comic books play a big part of literacy for children that turn us into the people we are now. Here we are now 30, in my case, 30 years later, right? So getting back to what Baz just mentioned, Bill Maher, the stupid son of a bitch that he is, made a comment about the cultural significance of comics in general and in what they have to do with what I call modern mythology, right? So comic books get a lot of shit, right? Oh, you fucking still read comic books? Well, comic books are basically, if this was 2,000 years ago or 3,000 years ago, comic books would be our Roman and Greek mythology, right? This is like the modern day mythology that we're all kind of following. You know, these are our new gods, you know, so to speak. And we, again, we learned to reading this stuff and everything else and growing up. So this moron writes, and I kind of actually like Bill Maher from time to time. He penned an op-ed I'm reading right here from comicbook.com. In the wake of comics publisher Stan Lee, he writes, Maher dropped lines like, I don't think it's such a huge stretch to suggest that Donald Trump could only get elected in a country that thinks comic books are important, along with mocking fans who are mourning the loss of the beloved comic creator. Then he goes on to say, but then 20 years or so ago, something happened. Adults decided they didn't need to give up their kids' stuff. And so they pretended that comic books were actually sophisticated literature, Watchmen. And because America has over 4,500 colleges, which means we need more professors than we have smart people, so dumb people can go on to become professors by writing theses with titles like The Otherness and The Heterodoxy and The Silver Surfer. And he caught a ridiculous amount of backlash for this. And I just think it's fucking ridiculous. And it's like one of the most ignorant statements you could possibly make. Why? And there was no reason for it because he's a fucking, I'm sorry, Miss Bell's joined me a few minutes ago. And she's just like, why?
I just think the timing is bad. He might have some valid points. He should be able to express them. Mm-hmm. It's just that the guy just died, this week?
Yeah.
It's a little too early to really, you know. I'm all for like giving, a grieving period when somebody dies and not sending out negativity, you know.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I'm not a fan of Stan Lee whatsoever, and I have issues with him, but I won't get into it too much because of that.
Yeah, I mean, to knock down comic books in this day and age is kind of ignorant on his part, because if you actually look at what's being, all the movies, all the TV shows, where do they come from? Comic books. You got The Walking Dead. You got what's that show on AMC? The weird one. The one with the Preacher. Mm-hmm. You got all Watchmen was a great movie. All these movies, TV shows that come from comic books. I think Netflix signed on another comic book TV show. It's just great creativity, great writing, and yeah. So what? It goes into comics. If someone wrote that as a screenplay, they would get so much credit, but yet they don't give it credit. Why? Because it's in a comic book? Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I think that it's ignorant. You know, with great power comes great responsibility, right? Like that's like the fucking. There's so much truth in that, and there's so much you could learn from that being a young kid. And I even go back nowadays. I had a conversation with a friend of mine a few years ago about what would Batman do, right? You're stuck in a situation. Your best friend betrayed you, whatever, he fucked your girlfriend, some crazy shit went down, how to handle a situation at a job, a guy cuts you off on the road or something. And sometimes I find myself, and maybe I'm an exception to the rule, but I know other people out there do the same thing. We ask ourselves, what would Captain America do in this situation? What would Batman do in this situation? And he looked at me and said, that's ridiculous. It's what does Rob do? What does Rob Banks do in this situation? And I told him, sometimes Rob Banks isn't strong enough. Sometimes I don't have what it takes because of emotions or whatever, my upbringing and my personal experiences to handle the situation properly. So to think in terms of what would Spider-Man do and having responsibility, right? You take a step back kind of and think of the world maybe a little bit differently. At least that's how I look at things from time to time. And it's helped me a lot in building character. You know, guys at my job say stuff like, you like these fucking comic book. You know, they call me comic book guy or comic book man. And they're like, oh, you're too much into the comics. I'm like, well, what the fuck are you into? And they're like, oh, sports. And I'm like, look, Ezekiel Elliott is punching people in bars and fucking up women and shit. And I love football. I love football. Okay, but all my sports figures taught me to do, with the exception of very few of them, was to be a womanizer, do drugs, take advantage,
domestic abuse,
do steroids, do all kinds of crazy shit to become the best athlete you could be, right? Or whatever. Like, but Spider-Man taught me to be responsible. The Fantastic Four taught me science. Batman taught me to question everything and to look deeper into things past surface value. So I think we learn more from these heroes than we do even from real life people most of the time, because these are the ideals of what we measure ourselves against.
Yeah, and they're a lot closer to being infallible than your typical real life role model, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, why not I guess sensationalize that person.
They're just modern day fables.
Yeah, didn't Bill Maher? Yeah, my bad. Didn't Bill Maher also relate that's why we have Trump is because of the comic book?
Yeah,
that people like comic books, which I think that relation is like the laziest analogy I've ever heard. Like, there's
there's no relation to comic books and Donald Trump.
I mean, it's like saying that someone reads books with pictures in it, and all of a sudden, that's stupid. It's just a lazy writing.
Look, we and Baz were hanging out one night at a bar, and we were walking into the bar, and a drunk Baz, you know the story I'm going with, and this lady walks out stumbling with her boyfriend, and I just get out of the car, pretty much looking the way I do now, and she looks at me and she goes, "Are you a scientist?" And I was like, no. Why? She goes, "Well, you're wearing glasses." I was like, well, that's a pretty low bar that we have nowadays. So if you like comic books, you get Donald Trump. If you wear glasses, you're a fucking scientist, I guess, in this day and age. So it's just, like,
I think that's just Bill Maher's stupid opinion. That's his own opinion. I don't think anyone else could put comic books and Donald Trump together. There's no way.
And that lady was drunk when she made that statement, right?
Yeah,
wasn't, right?
Yeah,
so
it was just a funny story, semi-related to what we're talking about. But even beyond the Trump thing, I think that saying that comic books are stupid and we should leave them in the past, I think that people can learn a lot more by reading comic books and actually trying to understand the lessons they're trying to teach us. And this is coming from a guy who talks about fucking diversity and all kinds of shit.
Nothing wrong with comic books, I'm telling you.
Right.
It's just...
That was a weird night, man. That bar. You remember the name of that bar? It was like a Coke bar. Like everyone. It was like some mafia. Didn't some mafia dude come up to us and start hanging out with us and was like, "Who are you guys?"
Can we just have a
He was like trying to intimidate us.
I remember.
He started breaking bottles.
Oh my god.
Vaguely. I do remember the mafia guy coming up to us and talking, though, because at that point we had already been drinking. All right.
He's like, "Who are you? What do you do?" He was asking you what you did for a living.
Oh, right. So I was wearing fucking glasses. Can we turn this back into about comics? All right.
We don't allow scientists in this bar.
Talk about the Coke bar.
Yeah. Oh my god. But
yeah,
right. Does anybody else have Knick, Knack? You haven't spoken.
No, I was just gonna say. I mean, Bill Maher. I've watched him from time to time as well, and sometimes he can be spot on. But he is a notorious pot stirrer, and that's sort of his MO. And I mean, I actually follow him on Facebook, and it was funny because he posted a link to the blog of what you're talking about that he wrote himself, and he was just getting lit up by almost like his own fan base was lighting him up, and it was one person wrote, I wish I could take credit for this. One person wrote, like, "This is notorious coming from a guy who smokes dope like he's 16 years old." So,
nice.
Burn. All right, real quick. It's Rob wrote this a few times in the chat. He says, "Is Cap left-handed?" Just curious. I guess from me having this out with the shield in the left hand, although it looks like it's in his right hand, it's actually in his left because you guys are watching like a mirrored version of this. I always picture Cap holding the shield in his left hand to block, and then hitting you with the right, the knockout. But I'm sure you could use either hand, whatever.
That was one of my favorite Hot Toys that I ever had. That's the Age of Ultron cap, right?
Yeah,
where it's actually a magnet.
Yeah,
I got the Civil War one after that, and that was just nowhere near the quality I thought.
Really? Because I was actually wondering if I should trade this up for the Civil War one.
Well, the back fits funny on the Civil War cap. Like the back, it's just real loose. It's very odd. It's very odd.
I mean, to be honest, just wait for the new Infinity War movie. They teased the how Cap looks, and he's got a really cool costume, classic costume.
Real quick, guys, Miss Bell has a message about the Bill Maher thing from Neil Gaiman. She's looking it up now.
He tweeted or whatever.
He tweeted. Did you guys hear her, or do I have to speak? Because they probably can't hear you, so just tell me.
Yeah. He tweeted that
vague, very vague, faintly.
People are rising to the troll.
He says Mayor Bill Maher is just trolling, and people are rising to the troll.
More people cared about Stanley's death than care about Bill Maher alive.
He goes, more people care about Stanley's death than Bill Maher alive. So there you have it. All right, look, we're at the halfway mark. Anybody else have anything they want to say about Stan Lee? Not just the whole regular rest in peace type stuff, but like a story you guys want to share, or maybe a favorite character he created.
When do you think it's safe for me to talk shit about Stan Lee? Like 2-3 weeks?
Yeah, I would say a month.
Like a month?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, Baz is not a
Baz. I know where you're coming from, though. I hear you. Without you,
yeah, like I'm like really big on creator rights, man. So
yeah, no, I hear you.
Yeah,
that really irks me.
Hey guys, I mean, the guy lived 95 years. I mean, that's pretty damn awesome. He had a really good run. Not to negate his loss or anything, but he had a really good run. I mean, I wish I could get 95 years, guys. I'm probably gonna die at 65. On the toilet, surrounded by zinger wrappers and light beer. So
that's dark.
Elvis style. I like it.
After I have my biscuits and gravy. So yeah.
Yeah. Unfreaking believable. Yeah,
Star
no, that's
Wars.
Speaking of the Stan Lee death didn't affect me as much as it affected. I was watching people like cry online and stuff in these chats, and I guess rightfully so, because I actually got choked up over the death of these two people I'm about to mention. I had asked my wife why, like, because Stan Lee is a bigger part of my life and his creations or co-creations, Baz, than a lot of this other stuff I'm about to mention. So when Robin Williams passed away, and when David Bowie passed away, I was like devastated. And it took me especially with Robin Williams, I was fucked up for like 2 weeks over that. And I don't know what it was about his death that really like fucked me up. Besides the fact that I was a big Robin Williams fan growing up, and I loved the Popeye movie. That was like one of my first movies I saw as a kid and all that shit. But I was talking to her, and she's like, put it this way. Stan Lee was 95 years old. We all kind of knew this was coming. Mm-hmm. His health was declining over the last year, and he already lived a very fruitful, amazing life. Like, he had a full life, whereas these other guys weren't even that old. I think they were in like their 50s or something, like mid to late 50s, and they got cut short. Obviously, Robin Williams with the suicide stuff. That's why it may have affected me more. And she was like, we were just kind of talking husband and wife about this type of stuff. But
and then David Bowie, like, he put out an album like while he was sick with cancer. It was like the album was about him dying.
Yeah.
So and then the album released on like a Sunday, and he passed away like on a Tuesday or something.
Yeah.
I could be wrong about it, but yeah, the album dropped and then he died, and the album was about him dying.
Wow.
So yeah, that could have added to the depression.
I thought it was cool that he was able to see his son's movie before he passed away, though. His son was the one who who did that Warcraft movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's David Bowie's son.
Yeah, believe it or not. And he said he was really glad that his dad was able to see the
movie before he passed. The World of Warcraft movie, David Bowie's son.
I like that movie.
It was. I liked it too. I played the game though, so I was kind of fanboying more than I was critiquing it accurately.
I'm a fan of the guy from Vikings.
Oh yeah, Ragnar Lothbrok, or his character from Vikings.
Yeah, Ragnar.
That's great.
Taris Delgado says, hope there's a creative way to keep his cameos coming up in the movies. Well, he has at least 3 more cameos. He has at least 3 more. There's speculation that he did do the last Spider-Man movie. That's just speculative, but he's definitely in the Captain Marvel. He's in the next Avengers and Into the Spider-Verse with Spider-Man. The animated.
Yo, what's your favorite cameo?
Oh shit. I like him as the postman in the Fantastic Four movie. Hey, Mr. Richards, and he hands off the mail. I think I like that. I like the idea of Stan interacting with the Fantastic Four. Fantastic Four, I can't wait for them to come back to the Marvel Universe, Marvel's first family. I'm not a big Fantastic Four fan, but I kind of am. You know,
Yeah. Well,
especially when I look at the.
I'm sorry.
No, especially when I look at the older stuff and I see like the old Kirby drawings and stuff, you know, with Galactus and all that stuff. So I can't wait for that to get incorporated back. So to see Stan interacting with those characters, to me, I think is like where it's at. I like that one. I like the Spider-Man Homecoming where he's like, "Hey, Lucille, how's your mother?" from out of the window, because that's total fucking Bronx right there. The Queens for that.
I like the one where he's the music teacher and Spider-Man and the Lizard are fighting in the background and he doesn't hear shit.
Oh yeah, and the Amazing Spider-Man, right?
Yeah.
Garfield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
The one with the Watcher.
Yeah, I was gonna say I like him. Yeah, him with the Watcher. And
Was that Guardians too?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I like the one that was the most subtle, I think, and it was from the original Hulk movie from back in, what was that, 02, 03, 04, where him and Lou Ferrigno were literally walking out the door while Bruce Banner's character is walking into the lab, and you see Lou Ferrigno and Stan Lee walking out, and it was subtle, and it was like almost like Easter egg, like wasn't in your face, wasn't forced. I really like that.
I like the Civil War one with the whole Tony Stank. That made me laugh.
They and we will all have different. This is great because we all have different ones too. You know, this is freaking awesome.
I like the Teen Titans Go movie.
Oh, and here we go. Miss Bell likes the Teen Titans Go movie appearance, which is a great freaking movie. By the way, it was hilarious. I watched it with the kids.
No, how did you finish that? Like, I felt like I was like all like hopped up on like cereal and shit.
No, it's just like because I'm used to it, watching it with the kids and constantly being hyped up like I'm on crack with them running around like maniacs.
Sugar, yeah.
So it was fun as hell. And they're like, and if you didn't see it, he's like, "Hey, it's Stan Lee." And they're like, "This is not a Marvel movie." And he's like, "I don't care if it's Marvel. I'm Stan Lee." He's like, "This is my cameo." So it was just funny.
For me, it was like a really badass trip for like 2 hours.
Yeah, true. All right. Now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes. Everybody said their piece with Stan Lee. RG, hey, what's up? What's up, RG? We got to get you on, man, eventually. I don't know, maybe in the spring or something. He's working right now. So what's up, RG? Go subscribe to RG's channel. He's another one of us fellow great collectors as well. All right. Here it goes. Here's where you assholes get to string me up by my balls and torture me for the next fucking hour. Okay, because now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of the show, which is as requested and as promised, the Star Wars talk. This is going to be the prequel episode. We had to get through the Stan Lee stuff first, but now we are getting into the prequels. Hopefully we can get through all 3 prequels. I don't think it's going to happen. And if it does, it will continue next week. So here we go. The prequel trilogy, the whatever you want to call it, starting with episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Now, I proposed a couple of questions to the guys in the chat room. The guys that are with us tonight, rather. Sorry, fellas. Getting late. Everybody give me your little breakdown of The Phantom Menace when it first came out, what you thought of it, and then I'll go through my questions afterwards. And I'll be the last one to answer this and to wrap us into the question part. So we'll go from right to left. So... well, you know what? Fuck it. We'll go from left to right. Knack, you started off, and then we'll go to Sinister.
All righty. Let's see here. Star Wars Episode 1, Phantom Menace, came out in 1999 in May of that year. I was fresh out of college. I just graduated. I literally was like the same age as like the guys in Fanboys. Have you guys ever seen that movie? I was literally that same age, the guys in Fanboys. Had just graduated from college. Friends and I went to the midnight showing of the film. I can remember my first overall impressions were I was moderately disappointed. You kind of went in expecting kind of like everyone was expecting. You saw the trailers, and no one makes a better than Lucasfilm. I will say that. Nobody. And that's to this day. No one makes a better trailer than Lucasfilm. And, after that, seeing the trailer in the November of the previous year, where they had the cutaways with Yoda, where he's like, with anger leads to hate, hate leads to what, all that, and just seeing it, and just the expectations were so sky high. It was so sky high. The movie could not come anywhere near its expectations. And so I left the film, moderately disappointed, not feeling like I'd seen the worst movie in my life or anything like that, but I felt like I'd seen the worst Star Wars movie of my life. That was my initial impressions of it. But all that said, I went back and saw it 6 more times that summer. So
nice. All right, Sinister, what do you got for us?
So when I saw it, I was 18, almost 19. Just looking I was looking up the real estate just before Knack mentioned it. And I liked it at first, but I did realize that there were a lot of kiddie shit. Like I didn't really like any of the scenes with the Gungans or Jar Jar in it. I love the scene with Darth Maul. That's kind of where I kind of was like, oh, Darth Maul's awesome. Until the end, and then you're like, wait, what? He's gone already? And then obviously they brought him back in the Clone Wars. So that's kind of where I really dove into Darth Maul. He's probably one of my favorite Star Wars characters. So I liked I liked it at the time. When I saw it the second time in the theaters, that kind of died a little bit. Not completely, but it was kind of like, you see it. I saw it a second time. I'm only 18, so I'm not like, real, I'm not really analyzing a lot of it. And then, after I saw it the second time, I was kind of like, all right, I didn't really like this. I like parts of the pod racing. I think overall, I thought it was all right. Maybe like if we're doing it like by like a school grading scale, it's probably like a C or C minus for me. It kind of still is. So that's where I land with it.
PJ.
So I'm in the same boat with Ryan when I was just out of high school, first year of college, and I remember I was working in Sports Authority. I just helped open that because I was working there part time, and I just helped open that Sports Authority, and they were opening up the AMC theaters like literally like 2 steps away, or right next to Sports Authority, and I was like, I can't wait for them to open up officially so I could go there and get my tickets for Star Wars, because they were, the same time they were opening the theater, Star Wars was releasing. So it was like one of the first movies that was shown in that movie theater. So when I got it, watched it midnight, loved it. Okay, I'm with Ryan on this one. I wasn't overanalyzing it. I'm just happy that Star Wars is back. Because seriously, after watching the trilogy, you thought that was it, And at that time, I wasn't reading in, like any like novels or anything. But I always loved the original trilogy. But to see Star Wars back in the big screen, amazing. It was like nothing that you could take away in terms of from my memory, from my heart. And the Darth Maul, my favorite, Sith Lord. Not Sith Lord, I guess. I don't know. Was he a Sith Lord? He wasn't Sith Lord. Was he?
Sith Apprentice, man.
Sith Apprentice, right? So, he was my favorite Sith. The fight scene was amazing. One of the best lightsaber fight scenes in all of Star Wars movies. The pod racing scene was pretty much showcasing what you could do with technology. And that was Lucas, what he was known for, was pushing the boundaries with technology and pushing it to the next level. And I was an audio file and a video file, and to see that in the big screen was amazing, because you heard like the surround screen, like how it's passing through the canyons and everything. I thought that was pretty cool. I love the Jedis. I love Yoda, seeing Yoda back. I loved everything about it. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't a perfect movie. Jar Jar was annoying, obviously, but to be, and so was Anakin a little bit. But to be honest, it is what it is. I still liked it. Yes, as it aged, it wasn't the best reviewing replayability, you could say, but overall, it's not my favorite Star Wars movie, but I still liked it. Even to this day, I still liked it.
Very cool. Baz.
We got to see a young Obi-Wan Kenobi with this awesome new character played by Liam Neeson. I mean, they were like Batman and Robin, but Jedis. You know, Jar Jar didn't bother me because I was used to like the slapstick kiddie element in Star Wars at this point. I mean, I was pissed off when I saw Ewoks with Return of the Jedi. So, you know, the Gungans didn't bother. I was just glad Star Wars was back. We got some awesome Jedi action. I mean, that's one of the best friggin' duels ever is Duel of Fates. Darth Maul with the double-bladed lightsaber. Come on.
Yeah.
I love the movie. Like, you know, even when people were telling me, oh, it sucks, you know, like trying to convince me to hate it, I have no problems with it.
Yeah.
Everyone points out George. I don't know. It just, I ignored it. I didn't even pay attention to him.
Yeah.
I was too busy looking at the Jedis kick ass. So,
yeah.
I have no problem with this movie. I like it to this day. It holds up for me.
Yeah, same.
Okay, then I will close it off by saying, fuck this movie. All right. I actually have a really good memory tied to this movie. Again, we're doing the prequels tonight. This is where you're going to see me be the grumpy bastard of the group. And by all means, this is the time where everyone in the chat and everyone watching this after the fact could just go and unsubscribe for the Red Cup review because I absolutely fucking hated the prequels. However, I have a lot of good memories associated with certain aspects of the prequels. So I was 16 years old. I'm the youngin' here. And I remember it came out, the midnight opening. It was Thursday night, and me and my older brother were looking at each other, and we were like, oh, shit, what are we going to do? We're just hanging out, you know, and he was like, hey, look. I was like, you know, Star Wars just came out, and he was like, yo, you want to go see Star Wars? So we went to Bay Plaza in the Bronx, and we saw episode 1, and at the time, we liked it. When I first saw it, I liked it because I was like you guys, I was happy. Star Wars was back after all this time, and I was just happy that it was back. That being said, I was 16 years old, and as I got older and I watched it a few more times, all the little cracks started to show. Obviously, the big one being the 87 minutes of Jar Jar Binks and all that nonsense. I hated the droids. Hated everything about the politicalness of the movie. I pretty much didn't like anything about the movie after the fact, except... obviously, Darth Maul looks awesome. That's one thing that Lucasfilm also knows how to do is that's design amazing-looking characters. The set design and character design I thought were great. The parts of the sets that weren't CGI, because I'm a big fan of practical effects too. I don't like that cartoon stuff. I feel like nowadays when I'm watching it, I'm watching like a cartoon. I really liked Qui-Gon Jinn, but I like pretty much everything Liam Neeson is in. Obviously, Ewan McGregor is probably the one shining thing throughout the entire prequel trilogy. That was probably the best thing about that trilogy, at least in my opinion. So aside from Darth Maul and Qui-Gon Jinn, I have that nice memory with my brother to hold on to, but I just don't like the movie that much anymore. It was cool. Baz touched on a good point with the Batman and Robin of the two Jedis. I think there was a lot of missed opportunities in that. I thought they spent too much time with the goofy characters with the Gungans. I'm actually a fan of the Ewoks too, by the way, and I don't like the Gungans, but whatever. That's just some shit you're going to have to figure out for yourself. I don't want to leave this on a sour note, but I am going to...
Can we talk real fast, Rob?
You go ahead.
Can I just... Okay, well, first of all, I think I figured out your problem with the prequels, bro. I think I got it figured out. Dude, you saw episode 1 when you were 16 years old. I mean, like, I was like post-college at that point. Dude, you probably hadn't even gotten laid yet, dude. You were probably like pent up with sexual frustration. You were at home humping your pillow every night like we all did back then. And you know what? You just thought you were too cool for it at the time. You just thought you were too cool for it at the time. Let's face it, man. Now, here's the thing with episode 1. Episode 1 had just like about 3 problems, and it would have been, and people, all the complaints about it would have melted away. First of all, yeah, Jake Lloyd had a lot of clunkers in that movie as far as lines go. That's not his fault. He was a child actor. You know, George Lucas didn't do him any favors there. I will admit that. There's about maybe 4 minutes of awkward Jar Jar Binks antics, particularly in the final battle where, you know, he's like flopping around on the tank and doing all this stupid shit. And you know what? It just didn't fit in a Star Wars movie. I will give it that.
Stepping in shit, for Christ's sakes, right before they go to the pod racing. Guy's stepping in shit.
Yeah, but if it's not him doing it, C-3PO will be doing some crazy.
Nah,
stupid.
bullshit. C-3PO didn't even become a fucking a goofy character until the prequels. Yeah, he was the comic relief and kind of stupid and goofy, but he wasn't like with that. Oh, I'm so beside myself with the fucking head. We'll get to that line in the next part of the fucking when we get to
the fact that he's stepping in shit is a good thing. It's real world, man. That's Star Wars is Star Trek. Yeah, there's Bentha Poodoo there for Christ's sake. It's all good, man. It's all good.
Okay. Most important. Oh wait. Okay. What do you got, PG? What do you got, Paradox?
I mean, I totally get the hate for the prequels. Trust me. I'm an open-minded person. I try to be, and I try to see two sides of the coin. There's always two sides, because you try to understand where the other person's coming from. For me, I understand where Lucas was trying to come from. Basically, I went to Star Wars Celebration last year, and he was in a panel. And I think everyone's jaw dropped when he said this statement. He goes, I made Star Wars not for 30-year-olds or 40-year-olds or 20-year-olds. I made it for 12-year-olds. And I think everyone was like, what? Like, this is one of the first time that George Lucas had full reins to making a movie. He produced it. He wrote the screenplay. He directed it. He had every hand in the pot, which also caused, the downfall of the prequels.
Too many yes men, not enough fucking people checking him like they did with
they tried to, but they were like, "Hey, George," because I watched a documentary on it, and they were like, "Hey, George, we shouldn't put that." And he'd be like, "Nah, you're right. Nah, we're gonna put it because you know what? I give the man credit. He made a movie that he wanted to make. Okay, this is his baby. And imagine you have a movie, and everyone's like, "Hey, Rob, let's not do that." You're like, "Why?" It's like, no, it's not gonna work out that way. No, this is my movie. I'm gonna make it the way I want to make it, and that's what his thinking was. Because episode 4, he directed, he wrote it. Episode 5, he didn't write the screenplay, right? And correct me if I'm wrong. He didn't write the screenplay. He didn't direct the movie.
No, he basically came up with he wrote the movie, but he didn't write the screenplay for it because the screenplay was by Ivan Kershner or something.
Yeah,
he's the director or whatever the fuck it was.
Yeah,
but, Leah Brackett wrote most of the screenplay, I think.
Yeah.
Oh,
Leah Brackett.
Oh, okay. Well, whoever that. See, to me, it's like the best Star Wars movies. Lucas had not this much involvement in. And I know the first Star Wars movie was great, but to my opinion, the two best ones up until recently, and we'll get to that in a future episode, it was episode 5 and 6. Episode 1 is very good, has some of the greatest moments in the entire series. But I want to get into that in when we get to that original trilogy episode. But
my statement is that you got to give the guy credit for doing what he originally had vision for and he had control of. He had too much control. That was the problem. Yeah. If he gave some of that duties to everybody, because you can't take on the whole movie by yourself. Do the screenplay, do the writing, do the directing, doing the producing, doing this, doing that. Yes to this, yes to that, approving this, approving that. You kind of have to rely on the people that you hire to do that.
Yeah.
So, George Lucas always admitted, and he made several interviews, and it really showed in the prequels, that writing dialogue was his biggest weakness. Yep. And he actually brought in people to write dialogue in episode. I think in an episode in the original trilogy. I mean, he kind of had it set up how he wanted it and stuff. But he had script doctors come in and help him with the dialogue in the original trilogy. And I don't know if he had that in the prequel. So I agree on that respect. The biggest, one of my biggest issues with the prequels is it does have a lot of clunky dialogue.
I think we could all agree at the fact that George Lucas is probably one of the greatest idea men of all time. But when it comes to execution, in my opinion, he don't got it. I don't like his final product. I don't think he's a very good director. I don't like his approach to directing at all, actually. But his ideas and character design wise, I don't think there's anyone that comes close besides like Jack Kirby. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like the look And the idea behind everything is his, and you can't take that away from him. And it's the greatest thing ever. Take your greatest thing ever and give it to the next person that actually knows what the fuck they're doing behind the camera. That's my opinion.
He's a great storyteller. Let's put it that way. I would love him to tell me a story before I go to sleep every single night for the rest of my life.
Or at least whisper it into somebody else's ear who actually knows how to tell us fucking story.
Okay, can we move on to Attack of the Clones?
Well, hold on. We have episode 1, right? Most important moment story-wise. I'm going to start off by saying I think the most important moment in that story, and I didn't want to just take a typical moment, but what I thought was the most important moment was Qui-Gon defying the council to train Anakin when they tell him, like, you're not going to train the boy, and he's like, look, I'm training him whether he's like it or not. Because I think that was one of those set off a chain of events. That isn't an obvious chain of events thing, but I think that showed kind of like the council, like it shows you, it wraps up who Qui-Gon is and shows you what's to come. Kind of like, I don't care what you say, this is what I'm doing. And years later, you get to see Anakin have that same "fuck you" attitude. You know, so to me, that's the most important part of that movie.
It was kind of gangster when he said that too, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
He's like, I'm training the boy, and they're like, just like, damn. He's like,
he's like, well, you have Obi-Wan to train, and he's like, yeah, Obi-Wan's old enough, he's good. Yeah, I'm training this kid. Fuck you, people. So that's what I have for most important moment. The coolest moment I'm going to say is Duel of the Fates, because I do think that is probably the second best lightsaber fight even to this day. I think the end of that movie, not even the end of the movie as a whole, I didn't really like, because I don't like the other scenes going on, but just that lightsaber battle taken by itself with the music and everything is the stuff of legend. And my favorite character in episode 1 is Qui-Gon. So that's what I have. So most important moment, coolest moment, favorite character. Take it away, fellas.
All right. I would say introducing midichlorians into the lore.
As important or worst moment in Star Wars history?
I've actually lightened up to the idea of it. Actually, George Lucas, you can look this up online. He said that if he would have done the sequels present day, it would have been about the midichlorians. So
I'm glad he fucking didn't. Sorry, I'm not snapping on you.
Listen,
hate.
Everything in life has a physical, measurable component to it.
Bullshit. Basically. The Force is not fucking in the physical realm. It is Star Wars is science fantasy. It is not science fiction. I fucking hate. Well, look, this isn't about whether I hated it or not. You keep talking. I'm cutting you off. I'm sorry.
It's just a way to measure the Force.
I agree with
it takes away a little of the mystery of it. I get it, but I don't know. I would have liked to see more of that expressed. Favorite moment? Shit. I don't know. I guess the beginning, man. Just when with the Trade Federation, when they put on like their they're about to get gassed, and they come out fighting the Trade Federation at the beginning sequence.
Nice. Favorite character?
Qui-Gon.
Yeah, Qui-Gon's awesome. That I will agree with. Qui-Gon is actually one of the few characters in the prequel, one of the few shining lights for me in the prequels. All right, Paradox, come on, let's spitfire this.
Favorite moment is when I would say the Trade Federation, when they were talking about the politics. No, I'm just kidding. Basically when the most important moment was when you have Darth Maul with, Emperor, aka Darth Sidious, together, and you could see only two of them are plotting to bring down the Republic and the Jedi. I thought that was an important moment in how they were doing it, because as you watch the trilogy later on, how it transpired. But man, Emperor Palpatine, aka Chancellor Palpatine, or whatever you want to call him, he is a freaking badass deceiver of a character. Favorite character, Darth Maul. He kicked ass. He killed Qui-Gon Jinn. No, but what was the third question? I'm sorry.
Favorite moment, most important moment, because I think there's a difference between the two, and then favorite character. So you pretty much hit on all three.
Favorite moment was Duel of the Fates.
Yeah,
that was my favorite moment.
Sinister, what do you got?
So my favorite moment
was Duel of the Fates.
Yeah, I mean that was my favorite moment too. I'd like to touch on Baz's point about the midichlorians. I thought that was a great idea because it kind of showed it was the only way you could kind of rate a lot of the Star Wars or Jedi Masters that didn't really get much attention, until later in the Clone Wars animated show, at least a lot of them. But I didn't like the way they implemented it because it was like, or I should say the explanation, because it was a little Scientology kind of like with like the little organisms and shit for my taste. But yeah, I did kind of like the part of that too, Baz. You're not the only one. That's the only reason I was touching on that. And my favorite character was Darth Maul, go figure. So mine's pretty easy, pretty centric.
Knick Knack.
All right, so cool. You know what? I'm actually gonna mirror what a couple other guys said in here, including Baz. My favorite, most important moment is the scene where Qui-Gon Jinn is out on Shmi Skywalker's balcony, and he takes the blood sample from Anakin and he sends it over to Obi-Wan, and they introduce the idea of the midichlorians. I like the midichlorians in that, like what Baz mentioned and what Paradox mentioned, was it established kind of a rule to the universe. Now, I think where people get really turned off by this, and this was kind of touched on too, was the sciencey aspect of it. Let's face it. I mean, I think maybe he could have come up with a better name than midichlorians. That kind of sounds like we're talking about someone's sperm count. So I think that's the big turnoff.
Midichlorians, right? Hey Nick, how many midichlorians do you have right now?
That means Palpatine should try to neuter all the damn Jedi Masters.
Dude, so like 0.
Oh yeah, you got a vasectomy? Oh shoot!
Yeah, man.
I was going to go for that, but we're gonna go off topic if we carry on.
Brother, it's a piece cake, brother. It's a piece cake. It's one afternoon,
brothers.
Yeah. Woo!
Oh man, that's hilarious.
No, okay, so back on track. I'm sorry. Back on.
Nick Knack, I'm sorry. Just to cut you, I can't look at midichlorians the same way ever again now. I don't think anyone can after that statement. Oh boy, I love it. I love it.
I shot my midichlorians all over your face.
Oh my god.
Oh god. Yeah, pretty much.
Oh man.
All right.
Classic.
Anyway.
I'm glad that we have that recorded because I'm going to refer to.
All right. So yeah, that is definitely my most my favorite. What I feel is the most important scene in the film. My favorite scene, obviously, it's going to mirror everybody else. So boring, but that's got to be Duel of the Fates. I mean, you know what? John Williams, set a new bar in that film for how for an action sequence, musical score. Music. Duel of the Fates is honestly my, outside of maybe the Imperial March, is my by far my favorite bit of Star Wars music. That is like, what is that? That is probably the greatest thing to come out of that film with Duel of the Fates. The music. And so, yeah, definitely my favorite character. I got to give it up to Ewan McGregor. I loved him as a young Obi-Wan, who was just on the threshold of Jedi knighthood. He was a very mature Padawan. And his I liked his chemistry a lot with Qui-Gon. I thought that, like someone mentioned, they're kind of like Batman and Robin. I thought that was cool.
So I'm going to refer back to your soundtrack. My third one, I agree with you. The Imperial March, the Duel of Fates, and my third one is Anakin versus Obi-Wan in Episode 3.
Absolutely.
I cry every single time. I listen to that on the way to work.
Yeah. It was so awesome.
And I cry. Even after that stupid 4-hour commute I had on Thursday. And I'm sure Rob can.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I had to stay at my mother's. It took me 2 hours to go about 160 feet.
Yeah. Trust me. 15 miles took me 4 hours.
No, seriously, when I say that, I literally went like 4 blocks in 2 hours. Like this isn't a joke. This
Oh
is
my god.
like Williamsbridge, Baz,
Yo, I
Williamsbridge
can't
to
tell
Lurting,
that
4
time,
hours,
like,
2 hours rather.
Huh?
Williamsbridge to Lurting to Viola's 2 hours.
What?
Yeah, dude, forget it, bro. We're not going to get into
Yeah,
the
there's not
fucking
getting
blizzard
into that.
now.
That's just gonna bring us.
All
down.
right, so I think that closing statements for episode 1. I'm just going to say that I think there was a lot of missed opportunities. I think that episode 1 should have not have even gotten made. I think they should have started with Attack of the Clones. I thought they went too far in the back. Although I do really enjoy Liam Neeson in the movie. Darth Maul. I don't fall into the badass stuff. Now I know Paradox, you're into like the dark side, right? You're like a dark side character. You're like, oh, dark side. See, I'm a light side guy. That's what we're gonna.
You guys are wimps.
What?
You guys are wimps. No, I'm just kidding.
Exactly. No, that's cool.
No. I'm just kidding.
I think that while Darth Maul probably has the coolest or one of the coolest designs of any character, almost in like cinema, like for like a villain. I mean, he's really fucking well done. So standing ovation for whoever designed that character. Standing ovation for Ray Park and doing what he did. Darth Maul should have never have died, and he should have continued on and been the villain. I think in episode 2, I think that they prematurely got rid of a lot of things that were great. I feel like in episode 1, everything that was good, he was like, nah, we're just going to show you 87 minutes of Jar Jar Binks and fucking young Anakin and all this shit, a bunch of shit. Meanwhile, everyone's going like, all right, when's Darth Maul getting back here? Okay, can we see more of Liam Neeson and fucking Obi-Wan do something?
So they brought back Darth Maul. Did anybody see the rematch between Obi-Wan and Darth Maul?
Classic.
Yes.
Beautiful.
In the Rebels.
It was like samurai versus samurai. Beautiful.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
I am not a big.
No, Knick, Knack, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'm not a huge fan of the Rebels cartoon series, but that scene was absolutely beautiful. Like you said, it was almost like it was so quick. It was almost like an homage to samurai films. It was awesome.
Yeah, because
so are you guys like into the forms, like the lightsaber fighting? You guys know anything about that?
Yeah,
little.
Yeah.
Okay, so Obi-Wan, like he starts off in his regular form that he uses, which is I think form 3, which is more of a defensive form. Yeah. But then what he does is he switches his stance to Qui-Gon's form, which is form, I think, 4. I think it's called a Taru or something like that. Yeah. So then Maul reads that and comes at him just like the way he defeated Qui-Gon Jinn. He takes his hilt and tries to, remember he lifted up Qui-Gon's
chin checks him. Yeah,
chin checks him, and then he got him in the abdomen. But what's it called? Him out. He blocked the hilt strike and just came down and cut them all in half.
Yeah, for a second time,
and actually showed like some sort of care to Maul as he's dying. He's holding him like in his arms.
Well, Obi-Wan, we're gonna get into that as we get through the series, especially through these next 2 movies. And that quote, Obi-Wan is the quintessential Jedi. He's the Jedi you aspire to be. He's like follows the rules. He's level-headed. He's like the epitome of the perfect old school classic Jedi. Like when you think of the Jedis that follow the code and being a pacifist and all that. He's old Obi-Wan Kenobi is like one of my favorite Star Wars characters out of all the characters. But I'm glad you guys are mentioning that Star Wars battle that they had, that rematch, because getting into episode 2, especially the end, and I don't want to jump ahead here because we're going to jump ahead and then jump back to the beginning. So to just quick jump ahead to wrap up what you guys were just talking about, I absolutely fucking hated everybody turning on their lightsaber and spinning around and fighting the droids. I hated that because to me, one of my favorite battles was the simplicity of the original lightsaber battles because it reminded me of the old school samurai stuff, with the exception of Duel of the Fates, because that was just so freaking well done. I liked it when someone turned on their lightsaber, when the samurai drew his sword, you were fucked. All right. That's why I loved what they did in Rebels and why I really couldn't stand episode 2 and 3 and the lightsaber battles in those movies. So we're going to get into episode 2 now, Attack of the Clones. Yeah, the buzzer, right? So no one thinks they're going fucking crazy. Miss Bell's hitting this little bell she's got. All right. Attack of the Clones, I probably think is the worst out of. I actually like episode 1 slightly better than episode 2, although I like the scene. My favorite scene in episode 2 is when Obi-Wan fights Jango Fett. I think that's my favorite part of the movie, when they fight on Camino in the rain. My favorite character in that movie is Obi-Wan Kenobi. And the most important part, I think, of that movie is when Anakin kills the Tusken Raiders. I think that's the official "fuck you, I'm going dark" moment for Darth Vader. I hated the dialogue in the movie. We've already established the bad dialogue use. I thought the movie was slow as hell. I hated the love story. I thought it was completely unbelievable that these two fell in love. I did not like the acting at all. And people in the comment section are like, "Oh, Padme." I thought she was a terrible actress, especially in this movie. And she's a great actress, which is what's fucking mind blowing to me, because she's actually good as an actress. I did not believe the two of them falling in love. Did not like Hayden Christensen's casting at all. Now, I will say that when Yoda pulls out his lightsaber at the end and starts fucking messing with Count Dooku, when I was in the theater, I remember the theater erupting into applause and going nuts. And I was one of them. I was standing on my chair with my friends going, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then when I went back and thought about it a couple of years later and rewatched the movie, I thought to myself, to me, it didn't make any sense. It went completely against Yoda's way. I thought he should have been beyond even having to use a fucking lightsaber. I think the idea of Yoda using a lightsaber is actually cooler than the execution of Yoda using a lightsaber, because I think that he was so badass at that point, he should have been beyond such things. He should have just rolled up and been force checking this dude. It should have been just a complete force battle, or at least at the last moment, like Count Dooku, who I also love. Christopher Lee is a great character. I did like him in that movie. Pulls out his lightsaber. I thought Yoda should have been blocking those shots with his hands. Like, I am above and beyond anything you have to offer me. So overall, this is probably my least favorite Star Wars movie. But the Jango Fett fight was great. Obi-Wan was great in it, but that's a testament to Ewan McGregor and what he was able to do with the character. And take it away. This time we're going to go in reverse order now. So now, Knack, episode 2. What do you got?
All right, episode. So yeah, episode 2 is probably my. I would say my fourth favorite, then, and a sixth favorite Star Wars movie, something like that. Anyway, like episode 1 and 2 are kind of like distant. You know, in my rankings, episode 1 and 2 are kind of way distant, and then you have 3, 4, and 5, and 6, and then the rest of it's just faction. So, night. But
hold on a second, Knack, you're breaking up. You're breaking up for a second. A lot of Baz just dropped. Camera dropped.
Oh no,
we need a reset.
Okay,
Knack.
Are you guys back?
Oh no,
yeah, I'm here.
All right, there you go. All right, you're back with us now. Go ahead.
I don't know what happened, guys. Sorry. It's Colorado, man. Maybe a cow walked over a power line or something. You know. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, okay. So, am I there still?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. So, episode 2, most important moment. I'm going to kind of echo what you said there, Rob. It's definitely the scene where Anakin. I love the scene, and I know people bitch about Hayden Christensen's acting. I actually liked him a lot in this scene. It's where his mother dies, and it's just his nonverbals are so strong. It's that scene. He just kind of looks up, and he's got that murderous rage in his eyes. You can almost see the fucking helmet and mask on his head at that point. And then he goes on, and he slays the Sand People. Of course, they kind of show it off screen. They don't really show it. Which is kind of good because they show that rage later in episode 3. So I really dug that scene a lot. I think that's the most important scene from that film. You guys still got me?
Yeah, we got you. What's your favorite moment?
Favorite moment? Boy, that might be my favorite moment. Yeah, I think that's my favorite. I think that's my favorite moment as well. But if I can also just say one piece of defense about the love story in episode 2. And a lot of people are very critical of this too. I understand that. And it is kind of wonky and awkward. but you have to understand that these are two people that are very young. One of them is a career politician who's been a queen since she was, as a child. The other one was a slave boy brought into the Jedi Order, so he's lived all his life in extreme structure. Both of them have lived all their life in extreme structure. These are not people that went to elementary school and went to middle school and had socialization. So the fact that their attraction is going to be awkward and messy because neither one of them have those social skills. So I always kind of thought that wasn't so bad. Let me also defend one more thing about episode 2, and then I'll shut up. Everyone always bitches about Hayden Christensen or Anakin talking about sand. Well, Jesus Christ, that always didn't seem like a problem to me. This is a kid that was a slave on a desert planet. I mean, you know what? When you're a little kid and someone hits you in the face with a fucking rubber band, you're not going to like rubber bands your entire life. I mean, he has a negative association with sand because he's a slave, and it's canon that Watto used to beat his ass. And so he associates sand with slavery, with suffering, with his own personal demons.
He's also cleaning electronics. I mean, probably 90% of his job is cleaning out sand and shit from inside.
Yeah, and I love the part. I will say this. I love the part where he's like, where I come from, everything's sand. And here, and he's standing with Padme, and they're on this, they're looking over this pristine lake. It's actually in Italy. It's actually a real place. Yes, they used a lot of practical effects and locations in the prequels. So they're overlooking this giant lake in Italy. And he's like, and here, everything is smooth. Runs her hand down the middle of her back. That is so fucking smooth. That'd get anyone laid.
Oh God.
I didn't say the acting was so stale. I'm glad there wasn't a sex scene.
Yeah. She's like, thank God there wasn't a sex scene. She thought the acting was stale too. I think that episode 2 really should have been episode 1, or episode 1 should have had a time jump in it and just had episode 1 and 2 as one movie. But whatever. And they should have. Whatever. Next, Sinister. Come on.
All right. Most important scene. I agree. It's probably when Anakin slays all the sand people. My favorite scene. It's in the theaters. It was Yoda, but when I rewatch it, it's Jango and Obi-Wan. And Jango is my favorite is probably one of my favorite Star Wars characters overall, and definitely in this movie. I never really understood why everyone sweated Boba when he's got almost no scenes, and Jango actually has quite has a shit ton of scenes in comparison. But let's see, least important scene. Yeah, I mean it's probably any of the scenes with the love in it, because it's just like what is fucking unemotional loser. But yeah.
I think a lot of the lore, a lot of the allure, because my son as well, his favorite character in Star Wars is Boba Fett. Period.
No one could not like
and
Boba.
no one could not like Boba, as the missus says. I think the design of that character, the Jango, Boba, same design practically. One's blue, one's pretty much green, like olive drab. That's probably one of the coolest. Design. Darth Maul, awesome character. He didn't do shit. Now this is based on movies only. I don't subscribe to I have to watch the cartoons or the Clone Wars or the this or the that.
That's
based
fair.
on just seeing the movie. The character's kind of whack. Yeah, he's cool looking, but
Jango?
No, Maul.
Okay.
Oh, Maul.
Right. But he's so fucking awesome looking and does a couple of cool things that you're like, yo, this dude's badass, right?
Mm.
Same thing with Boba Fett. Boba Fett does that all with a couple of nods. He gets the drop on Luke and Bespin. So the design of the character and that subtle coolness about them just elevates them to another freaking level altogether completely, And look, it's all up in here, right? So take Captain Awesome, my son, for instance. He looks at me, he's like, yeah, but he's got a fucking, he doesn't say fucking, but he's like, yo, he's got a jetpack, and he's got this cool blaster, and he's got the sidearm, he's got the lasers and the rockets and all that stuff and the helmet is, come on, that's the coolest freaking helmet ever, for anything ever.
Yeah.
So,
you know what I forgot to mention for least important scene? I should have said it's that factory scene with the bugs. That one that went on forever. that killed the movie for me. I'm like, why is this scene still going on? That's the least important scene in my opinion.
This is such a drag. I'm so beside myself. I felt like I was watching Batman and Robin again with all the goddamn puns. Like,
Yeah, you know what, guys? Let me just jump in real fast because I'm kind of passionate about this movie a little bit, and I know that's rare for Attack of the Clones. But you know what? One thing I really did like about Attack of the Clones is the world building in it. And George Lucas is a masterful world builder. You got Camino where they manufacture all the clones, right? And everything is soft. You don't have a right angle in the entire place. It's all soft and curvature. You know, it's because they're creating life. They're cloning. You know, they're cloning troopers. They're creating life. Then contrast that with where they're building battle droids. It's extremely industrial. It's full of right angles. It's sparks and shit flying everywhere. It looks like a it's a giant conveyor belt and assembly line. And so those two contrasts is just absolutely freaking brilliant in my mind.
And I agree wholeheartedly. And I can't repeat this enough. As far as character design, set designs, things like that, outfits people are wearing, ideas, this is how it has to look versus this. It's masterful. But I think that it's like echoing what Paradox said before. Sometimes you just got to hand it over and say, "Can you execute this?" You know, and a lot of that is owed to the original. Who was the guy that designed Macquarie? Did Macquarie have anything to do with the prequels?
You know what? I don't know if he did. I think Doug. I'm going to butcher his last name. Doug Chiang did a lot of the conceptuals. But he was a great artist. He's a great conceptual artist too. Not to take anything away from the movie, but they're both on scale with each other. I think the conceptuals and the ship design, everything, the prequels, actually in some ways supersede the original trilogy. I will say that.
Paradox, what do you got?
My most important scene in the movie was when Anakin and Padme were rolling for like 10 minutes straight in the hill. I thought that was...
The later this show goes, the more it's going to devolve into Mystery Science Theater 3000.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I agree with...
Rattled him. That was so hot.
She should have landed on his face.
Oh my goodness. So I'm going to say this is that, I'm going to agree with you guys that the most important scene was when Anakin goes, "I killed them all! Not just the men, the women too, women and children too." That was badass because you could see, not to take anything away from Hayden Christensen, and this is because of George Lucas taking over the screenplay. It's hard to write stuff like that and for an actor to act it out. And he's not an actor director. Like, he would just say, "Okay, cut, that's good." Not like, "Hey, Hayden, why don't you do this or do that?" Because Hayden Christensen, Natalie Portman are actually good actors. Hayden Christensen, before episode 1, Star Wars, episode 2, he was in a movie called Life as a House.
Oh,
if you watch,
right?
Yeah, if you watch, if you watch that movie, you're gonna say that's the reason why he got casted in as Anakin Skywalker. Then you go watch episode 2 and you're like, what just happened? But a little bit like came out of it when he was in that scene where he was like, "I hate them." You could see the anger and you could see like, okay, well, George Lucas can't mess up that writing. How much more, it's basic, straightforward. So he really, not to take away, he's a good actor. Natalie Portman, she's a great actor. Look at her. She won Academy Awards and she looked like a B-list actor in that movie.
The worst part of that movie is when she gets blasted out of the helicarrier, right? And she hits the sand, and then the fucking clone walks up to her, and she just pops back up, and she's like, "We got to do that." And I'm like, "Oh, Jesus Christ!"
Yeah,
man.
well, you have your director who's
like,
"That's good. Bye.
That's good. Great. All right, keep it moving. Let's go. We got to go get fucking some, Cinnabon."
Yeah.
I wish I could do the George Lucas impression. Yeah, can't do it.
But yeah, so that's my most important scene because you see him like the anger and you see him like he's gone through so much suffering, basically, with him being a slave or, him being taken away from his mom. you know, things like that. Like, wouldn't that make you mad?
Yeah.
So, you know, to see his mom die and he wasn't there for him, you saw the anger and the passion that Hayden Christensen showed in that scene. Least favorite scene, obviously, is the romantic scenes where Hayden and Natalie Portman are rolling down a hill for like 9 minutes straight. I thought that was unnecessary. And then what were those things that were like hitting them? I don't know. What was those animals? I forgot, but whatever. And what was favorite character? Favorite character, Jango Fett. Reason why I say that is because if you watch that badass scene, which I'm gonna refer to, my favorite badass scene in the movie is the Jango versus Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan is one of the most skilled Jedis in all of Jedi history, right? And he's going against Jango Fett, who is a bounty hunter. And you see Jango Fett basically hanging tight with him, right? Yeah. The only person that could kill Jango was Mace. And Mace is way above in terms of skill against Obi-Wan. So for me, that Jango scene proves, because I played Star Wars Galaxy. I don't know if anyone played that RPG, MMORPG. I played that video game, and I was a bounty hunter. And you always thought that the bounty hunters are always hanging toe to toe with the Jedis, and that scene just kind of proves that they can. Sorry if I sound nasally. I'm actually have a cold. I can't breathe. I'm breathing. I'm mouth breathing right now, guys. So.
Bazza, you're next.
Yeah, I'm still awake. Unfortunately it's a necessary movie because there was a lot of story to cover, a lot of exposition, but it's a boring movie. The middle is it's really hard to get through to the end. The beginning of the movie is exciting. You have the flying cars, and you see Anakin, and you see how his style of being a Jedi is more of like he's more of a daredevil as opposed to Obi-Wan. Okay, now the most important thing in the movie is finding out who the fuck the clones were, because I mean that was just a line that Obi-Wan said in the original Star Wars. Oh yeah, your father fought in the Clone Wars. You know, now we find out who the clones are.
Yeah.
It's Boba Fett's dad, okay? Cloned, you know, over 1 million times. I mean, how cool is that? I mean, that makes Boba Fett even more of an important character in the mythos. So yeah, finding out who the clones actually were.
All I got to say is a copy of the copy is not as good as the original. Just gonna throw that
right.
out there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's why they always miss, right?
I was more dissing
least favorite moment, R2-D2 flying. I didn't like that. I thought it was a little cheesy.
Favorite character?
Best Jango Fett, of course. Everyone's Jango Fett versus one that face off. The introduction of course, Jango, Count Dooku as an excellent Sith master. I didn't like the physics, the way. It felt like a video game, the way people moved. Yoda looked like Sonic the Hedgehog fighting. There was no weight to the characters. So it felt the special effects does I mean, in my opinion, does not hold up. So
holy shit! But didn't you just love the scene when Obi-Wan's pursued Jango Fett and Slave One to Geonosis, and they're in the asteroid belt rings in the theater. Now I'm talking about in the theater, not at home. But when you're watching that in the theater for the first time, and Jango Fett starts dropping those sonic charges, and they just spread out.
Yeah,
that was dope. That was dope.
Yeah,
Wang, and it just like,
yeah.
that was awesome.
That was
really
so cool. No, that was really well. I consider that kind of like an extension of their fight, right? Like you get their fight in the rain, and then that's kind of like a very short part 2 to their kind of battle, you know. So I kind of like lumped that all together, and that whole exchange that the two characters have, and we could all agree that was like pretty much the best part of the movies.
Robert, just real quick, I forgot to mention in regards to, you know, you saying about the Yoda versus Dooku, why they didn't use the Force, but they did actually, and that's when, you know, they were 1-on-1 with the Force, like they were equal, and then Dooku was like, well, we cannot fight with the Force. We have to fight with our lightsabers, you know. And that's when they fight, because they were like, you know, like throwing stuff at each other, and they were, you know, Yoda was like, you know, countering it. Basically,
you see how much concentration Yoda had to use to use the Force and lifting, you know, heavy things and stuff. And that's why you look at a character like Rey, and she does what she does in these new movies, and you're like, okay, come on.
Although I will say this, though. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, again, here, like I said, okay, only take the movies for face value. So I'm kind of like going back on what I had said originally, but I read the books I actually read all three of these. I read the Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith books. And supposedly in Star Wars lore, when a Jedi is around such a powerful dark side user, they're thrown off. There's like a disturbance in the Force whenever a dark side person is around that fucks up that whole harmony thing that they are in tune with, like their surroundings and shit. So when Count Dooku severs that thing and it kind of collapses on Obi-Wan, and then Yoda has to use the Force and really concentrate, you're like, why the fuck is Yoda concentrating so hard in that moment? Mm-hmm. Because he's around a Dark Lord, he's weaker. Right. Almost. It's almost like he has to really concentrate to draw, because not only the fact that the dark side guy is there, which is why they're able to like the light side we know is more powerful, right? So why don't the light side guys just always beat the shit out of the dark side guys? Well, the dark side guys have more concentrated power for attack, and at the same time, their surrounding energy fucks up the harmony of the Force that surrounds a Jedi. So it makes them. That's what they wrote in the fucking book, man. You know, so that's what makes it more difficult for them to do that shit. But whatever.
Right. So yeah, that sounds plausible. It sounds cool. Still doesn't make up for the nonsense that Rey is able to pull off.
Let's not do this. That's 3 episodes from now. It's 3 Red Cup episodes from now.
That's going to be like a 5-hour show.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm going to be on my A game that time. I'm going to have to be.
Okay.
Your favorite character, Baz?
Dooku.
Nice. Good fucking choice, too. He's in the movie for a very short period of time, but I absolutely love the fencing style that he uses. I love his lightsaber handle, and I love the way he
owns Obi-Wan, like in 2 movies.
Yeah. Now, his lightsaber form or whatever that is just completely breaks down. It's like meant to break down that defense and just kind of, you know, ruin you. I thought that was really cool to show.
He uses the same form as Vader.
Who?
Dooku.
Oh,
I think it's Form 5.
No, it's actually Form 4. He has his own form. Yeah.
Dude, I didn't know shit about these forms when you guys mentioned that one.
Yeah, it's its own style. It's the fencing style. Or is it? No, I'm sorry, Form 2. Form 2. I apologize. That was Form 2.
Yeah, but I will say this though.
Anakin and Vader.
I will say this though. There is that one scene though where Darth Tyrannus, aka Count Dooku, and Yoda are going at it, and they're using Count Dooku's throwing rocks down on him, and he's blocking it, and then they do the Force lightning, and Yoda's blocking it, and there's that really cringy line there where Count Dooku's like, I see we must settle this score with a lightsaber, and that's just. It reminds me of like 2 old men having a fight at a country club. You know, I see we cannot settle this score with our skills at croquet. How about badminton?
Oh man, that's hilarious.
All right. Anything else to say, Baz, about episode 2?
That's it. It's a hard movie to get through.
Yeah,
and I tried recently, and I had to like watch it in like 2 or 3 parts.
Yeah,
all right.
I agree with you guys. It's my least favorite Star Wars movie.
Okay, episode 3. So I know we're running late, and I'm starting to feel the tiredness bear down on my shoulders. But if we could just get through this last, and I have a feeling that this fucking conversation.
Oh man,
I could go all night, hour baby. On this shit.
I could go all night, baby.
Oh Christ! Okay.
Goodness.
They could use revenge in the title.
Revenge of the Sith. All right. Real fast for me. Most important scene for me is Anakin not listening to Mace Windu before Mace goes to confront Sidious. I think that's the most important scene in the movie, because if Anakin just shuts the fuck up and stays in his lane, Mace Windu pretty much cuts down Sidious, and we don't need the rest of the fucking trilogy, and the whole thing is just wrapped up in a nice tight bow. So Anakin not listening to Mace is what I'm picking for most important scene. Coolest scene, obviously, is the Anakin versus Obi-Wan fight, which here it goes, did not enjoy all that much. And favorite character, Obi-Wan Kenobi, again, because let's just face it, Obi-Wan's fucking awesome, and Ewan McGregor did do an excellent fucking job in this movie. I did not, I'm pulling the teat, and I'm jerking it for Ewan here. I think that there's a case to make for this to be the least, for this to be the worst. There's actually a case you can make for this to be the worst Star Wars movie. And Plinkett, for those of you that aren't familiar with Red Letter Media, Plinkett breaks down this movie, and technically it is the best out of the prequels, but you can make a case for it being the worst because the writing in this movie, in my opinion, is all over the place. I think Anakin turns way too fast to the dark side, and it's unbelievable. I think that the characters are making choices and decisions that are not consistent with what we've seen in previous scenes and previous movies, from the way that they've been established beforehand. But with all that being said, while I was in the theater, I was eating it up. Lightsaber battles, excellent. The more, the merrier. Great. Best fight scenes, fun, popcorn, all that good stuff. I recently watched it with my 7-year-old, and at one point we both just looked at each other, and he was like, he was like, "What is this?" Like, it just seems like when you pull out a lightsaber, and he pulls out a lightsaber, and he pulls out a lightsaber, and so on and so forth, they lose what makes them special. And I think that the movie was too overstuffed and too overblown. I thought that Revenge of the Sith should have been the second movie, and the third movie should have been Vader in the suit, because that's what we were all waiting for. I know, Knick, Knack, that was like your favorite moment when he finally becomes Darth Vader. I get that. I think that should have been the end of episode 2, and the end of episode 2 should have been the end of episode 1. Just my personal opinion. And that's all I have to say about that. Now, going from Baza, going back to Knick Knack, and Knick Knack, I know you love this movie, so we're going to close it in on you, so you can leave us on leave the show on a nice, positive, uplifting, speech.
Guys, I got to pee so bad, so I'll be right back. So, take it away.
Baz, take it away. Episode 3.
I'll start like my favorite, the most important moment is, of course, the birth of Vader, and just that scene where Obi-Wan is like, "You were supposed to be the chosen one." and you see Anakin writhing in the lava, getting he's starting to get catch fire, and he's like, "I hate you." It's a powerful scene. Least favorite, is that a category?
I think so.
I don't know. I like the movie. I don't find any problems with it. So
you like everything.
I like everything. Yeah, except the Last Jedi.
Oh, which makes no fucking sense. Jesus Christ. Okay, continue.
Yeah, that's it, man. Great movie.
Favorite character?
Victor. Were there any new characters introduced?
No, you can
Grievous.
Grievous was a great design of a character. Again, an excellently designed character. In my opinion, very poor execution. He wasn't even necessary to the fucking movie. They should have just left him out. But he was
terrifying.
Really.
He had 4 arms, and
he was cool, man. That whole I subscribe to it's cool, but it was pointless. It was just cool but pointless. It's like a fucking Ferrari with no engine in it. All right, so
Hayden Christensen is better in this movie. His acting is better. It's just it's just a lot of action. It's a good movie.
Cool. All right, Paradox.
This is my third. It goes between second and third favorite movie of all time for Star Wars. I would be here all night, Rob, and if I to disagree with you and everything, and I'm not going to go into that, but my important scene in that movie, and it's also reflects on my kids when they watched it with me, was the scene when Anakin was in that moment and he sees Mace Windu pointing a lightsaber at Emperor Palpatine, Darth Sidious, and you could see it in Anakin's mind, that choice that he has to make. You know, do I stop Mace Windu so I could save Padme, because apparently Emperor Palpatine said he could save Padme, or should we, arrest this guy? But clearly Mace was like, I'm going to kill this guy. I'm not going to arrest him. And that's when Anakin was like, well, there's my choice. And he chose the dark side. And that was the beginning of Darth Vader, as he was being knighted by Emperor Palpatine. You said most badass scene is the Anakin versus Obi-Wan scene. To me, there was so much emotion in that scene, and you could see the forms of the lightsaber forms. You got Form 3, which is a defensive form by Obi-Wan, which he mastered. It's like one of the least favorite forms by a Jedi because it was just too practical. It was too simple. But Obi-Wan was the one that really mastered that form, and it's a defensive move. It's basically an offense versus the best the best defense in terms of teams. You have Anakin, who was like an aggressive
wins championships.
Well, actually, George Lucas actually said that the top most powerful Force users / Jedis were Anakin, Mace, and Yoda. Nowhere was Obi-Wan Kenobi. The only problem with obviously with Anakin was he made a stupid move. He got cocky. That was it. That was the only thing. But if he stayed, clear in his mind and he kept aggressively attacking the way he was doing in the beginning of the fight scene, he would have easily won. Easily. But he made that stupid move, the high ground move. There you go. But to me, like when, Obi-Wan was like, you were the chosen one and you were my brother. That, oh my gosh. Like, let me tell you, I'm gonna confess it. I freaking teared in that scene, man, because you just saw these two guys like freaking they were brothers basically, fight each other. Imagine you're fighting your best friend. To me, that's what I thought, and
you're gonna see that when we talk about The Last Jedi between me and Baz. Don't worry, it's coming.
But basically, well, you might see that in me too, but because I'm with Baz. But hashtag I'm with Baz. But that was my one of my favorite badass scene. Favorite character, Anakin, hands down.
Cool. All right.
Let me ask
can I just say something real quick? I'm sorry, Baz. Because basically, it's one of those, like, you could kind of relate to that character. I mean, how many times have you were told as a kid, man, you're going to be a star football player, a star soccer player, and whatever decision you make, or whatever it is, whatever decision you make down the line, you end up not becoming that person. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. I certainly can. I was like, oh, you're going to be a good basketball player, because I thought I was a pretty good, decently basketball player, but obviously I went for girls instead of sports. So that kind of
Vader was supposed to be the chosen one.
Yeah, it's one of those that you could kind of relate. That's why he's my favorite character in that movie. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm taking too much time.
Rob, you had said that and a lot of people have this criticism, even I did, that he turned too quickly, like he bent his knee too quickly. But they had been like friends for a while, him and Palpatine.
Yep.
I think that's a problem with I think that George Lucas, as a director, this is where he fails again, is that there's a problem with telling how long timelines are going, right? So Episode 3 could have taken place over the course of 2 or 3 months. We don't see that, right? So I'm just taking the movie for what I'm seeing at face value. And I have to fill in the rest with my mind. Like, oh, is he really going back and forth and getting all this information? You get rid of all the fucking nonsense that fills the movie up with cartoon characters and toys and all that bullshit. And you just give us a little bit more. And this would not be an issue. I think that not only did he turn too quickly, I think the Jedi in this movie were rendered inept and useless, which is why it's almost like The Last Jedi is necessary for Luke to turn around and say, the fucking Jedi don't own the Force. They failed. They were a bunch of losers, because they were. This movie took Yoda and turned him into a fucking idiot. I thought the prequels took the lore of the Masters, the Jedi Masters, and turned them into a bunch of fucking cronies. They were like Keystone Cops.
No, but if you actually
I disagree. I thought marijuana was only legal in Colorado, dude. Jesus.
Marijuana was only legal in Colorado. But whatever. Like, look, this is gonna. I want to keep it moving just for the sake of us getting through this movie, and then obviously, like every fucking episode of the Red Cup Live, we're gonna have. We're gonna go like we've been going right back to The Last Jedi. We're gonna go right back to episode 3, and we're gonna keep these conversations are gonna keep evolving and moving along. So I want to get to what Sinister has to say about this movie.
So my least favorite thing was watching Kit Fisto die like a bitch. That pissed me off because I love Kit Fisto's design.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, he was always one of my favorite Jedi. My favorite character, Obi-Wan. My most important scene, Obi-Wan versus Anakin. I guess what favorite scene? I liked when Anakin fought Dooku again, and he was cocky and he actually brought it.
Yeah,
that was kind of cool.
Yeah, man, that was
scissored his fucking neck. That thing was awesome. Like he was hedging a bush.
Yeah,
that sick awesome. Move he did where he took his hand off.
Mm-hmm. That was a sick move.
Yeah,
he just disarms him literally.
It was beast.
Well, that shows you how strong of his form was with the lightsaber. He's a power. I'm telling you, like George Lucas said, he's one of the best Jedis out there.
All right. Anything else, Sinister?
No, that's all I got. And I actually got to head out.
Oh, shit. All right, cool, man. Well, listen, you've been with us for mad long, and I appreciate you hanging in there and joining us for tonight. And I'd love to have you on again.
Sure. Thanks for having me on, guys. You guys take care.
All right, Ryan.
You got it. Everybody in the chat, make sure you subscribe to Sinister, the Sinister Collector on YouTube.
Guys. Have a good one.
Take care. All right.
Yeah, he's got that dope-ass dark side statue, man.
Yeah, no, we'll be talking about that in the future. All right, here it goes. Here comes the fucking opus. Go ahead, Knack. Take us away.
Knack, lead us to the promised land.
Oh man, that's hard. That's hard expectations there, guys. But okay, I hope I don't pull an episode 1 on you guys. Look, you know what? All right. There was I did this in one of my channels. Did a review on my episode 3 Anakin Skywalker Hot Toys figure. There is a renowned art critic, Camille Paglia is her name, I believe. You can look her up on YouTube. She is a renowned societal critic, art connoisseur. She was giving a lecture at the Chicago Art Society a few years ago. I know this sounds really dry. I'm getting something really cool here, though. And she was asked, what is the greatest work of art of the 21st century? And this was a couple years ago, but
here we go.
Oh, yeah, it's coming, Rob. I had to listen to you. It's coming. She said the greatest work of art of the 21st century. And again, this is a renowned art critic. This is not Mr. whatever on YouTube. The greatest work of art of the 21st century today at that time was the two battle sequences in Revenge of the Sith with Obi-Wan and Anakin dueling it off on Mustafar, and then Yoda and the Emperor dueling it off on Coruscant. And it was so much so because it was regarding the death of democracy and the rise of fascism. And there were so many underlying themes and the usage of practical effects in all the lava you see. That's all practical effects. That's not CGI. They made elaborate model sequences for Mustafar. The fact when people say that the prequels was all like CGI, they don't know what they're fucking talking about. There was more practical effects in the prequels than there were in probably any Marvel film that you could pick out. But okay, so taking that into account, yeah, I do believe Revenge of the Sith. I mean, The Empire Strikes Back will always be kind of my favorite. That's all nostalgia. But technically, from a technical story narrative, Revenge of the Sith is the greatest movie of all time, in my opinion, in some ways. It borrows from the Iliad, the Odyssey, the fucking Bible. Rob, you hate the Bible too? Come on, man.
Let the dark side flow through your veins. Nick,
He's going straight Mace Windu for pod fucking lightsaber form on me right now. That's all right.
Anakin's descent to the dark side is so much like the journey of Lucifer to Satan. It is off the charts how awesome this film is. I left the theater in 2005 and my pants were wet, man. I freaking love this movie. It was perfect. Everything was perfect about it. I can't get critical of this film because it was technically, from a narrative standpoint, it was perfect. There are so many underlying narratives in there. The rise of Emperor Palpatine is so much rival to the rise of Julius Caesar in ancient Rome or the rise of Adolf Hitler in Germany. There are so many just freaking connections between contemporary and modern history and mythology in this film. And Anakin Skywalker, he turned too soon. Everything in life sometimes comes down to one choice. One choice can change your entire life. And that is so true in real life. And that's exactly what he made. He made that one choice. It was built up to, you saw the Chancellor, you saw Palpatine in his head, when they were at the opera, the scene at the space opera in Coruscant, which was beautifully filmed, by the way. I mean, say that George Lucas is a shit director. That was fucking beautiful. You show me anything better than that opera scene with Ian McDermott, the way he filmed, where he's like, some Jedi have powers or the Sith have powers that the Jedi consider to be unnatural. Shit, man, that was so cool. And the build up to that whole thing, with Sidious constantly in Anakin's ear, and the pressure he was feeling from Padme, and then he felt so distrusted by the Jedi Council that he felt so alienated and alone, and he gave in at the end because he was so terrified of losing Padme, just like the way he lost his mother in the prior film, that he made a pact with the devil and made a choice at that one moment. And when he killed Mace Windu, there was no going back. He couldn't go back to the Jedi after he killed Mace Windu. There was no going back. He was homeless at that point. The Emperor was his only choice, and he made it, and he committed to it. And it was so goddamn good, guys.
Yeah, all right.
You know what? My favorite moment in the film is the scene. The most important moment is the scene. It's so beautifully shot, guys. It's the scene where you have Anakin standing. Mace Windu told him, "We're going to go arrest the Chancellor, and you stay here," because Mace Windu didn't trust him. Obviously, righteously so. So Anakin is waiting in the Jedi Temple in the council chamber, and you see the sun setting, and they have that just beautiful music, and you see him just getting torn apart emotionally, and it cuts to Padme on the other side of several miles away in her apartment, and they're both like, the sun is setting behind, and the sun is setting on the Republic. The sun is setting on democracy. The sun is setting on a free world, and what is rising is nothing but darkness. So beautiful, so poetic. And again, he makes a choice. He makes a choice to go to the temple. And all these things are just building up to this grand choice that he makes when he finally drops to his knees and is declared Darth Vader. Fuck! I love that movie.
Yeah, you know what, Knick, Knack? I was going to bring up that scene. That was like the calm before the storm. Mm-hmm. It was beautifully shot. It's like Padme's looking across to the Jedi, headquarters or temple, whatever, and she knows something is wrong. She feels it. She doesn't know what it is, but she senses it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And it's just a great moment in the movie.
Absolutely. There's so many intangibles, so many things that borrow, like I said before, from classic literature and mythology in this film. It is so vastly underrated. Yep. And then you see, we'll go into it another episode then, compared to the Mickey Mouse bullshit we get today.
Fuck you guys. You know what? I gotta fucking amass my own fucking army of the Last Jedi fucking lovers. It's gonna be like fucking Magneto fighting off the X-Men against you assholes.
This was like drowning in the ocean of deep thought compared to the Last Jedi, which was like in a puddle. So anyway, That's the best character in that film, Anakin Skywalker. I don't care what people say. I thought Hayden Christensen did really great. You know, a couple clunky lines here and there, but otherwise really, really good. I loved him in episode 3. I thought his transition was great. I thought he had the presence to be Darth Vader without the mask. I love the scene where he's going into where he's been assigned to go to Mustafar. This poor Obi-Wan shows up and he's killing and he's murdering all the Trade Federation leaders. And there's the scene where Newt Gunray is ducking behind the table, and Anakin turns and he's fully cloaked, and you see the Sith eyes, and it's just like the presence. There's no line. He doesn't speak, but the presence is like, holy balls, that is Darth Vader. That is Darth Vader at his most powerful. It is amazing.
I don't think you look, man.
If that doesn't make you want to like that movie, I don't know what to say.
I can't argue. I'm not here to argue. All right. When the first time Knack was going to be on Red Cup Review for the live, we were going to do this this gloves coming off, the Last Jedi thing, and we had a conversation behind the scenes, and he was like, "Look, man, I don't want to come on there and debate whether you liked it or I didn't like it or whatever." And I was like, you know what? He's got a point. There's no reason to debate what way somebody feels about something. And obviously he feels really passionate about these movies. And I feel just as passionate about The Last Jedi. So if all valid points, I can't take nothing away from that. You look, man, if you're selling me on it, I'll buy the fucking ticket and I'll watch the movie with you again. However, again, good choice in best, most important scene in the movie. That's what I meant by when I said Mace Windu kind of tells him like stay here, and then he goes to the temple, and Obi-Wan disobeys that. That's kind of what I was getting at with that. So we're kind of on the same level there. The prequel trilogy as a whole, if I could just wrap up this episode, because we are going a little long tonight, I just want to say that what I'm looking for in a movie, in just movies in general, is good acting, good dialogue, good camera work, something that's shot nicely, soundtrack, which the fucking prequels have. They have excellent fucking music. To me, the prequels are a collection of cool scenes. They're strung together by bad acting, bad directing, and bad dialogue, but there's a lot of cool things to like individually. So if you could take all the coolest scenes, in my opinion, from the prequels, throw them in a pot, you actually have a very good movie. But you have to take all the cool scenes. But a movie is more than the sum of its cool scene parts to me. So I don't want to be Mr. Sour Grapes. I think that Knack did an excellent job of bringing us off on a positive note, and I want to keep it on that positive note because I'm a light side. PJ, Paradox, I'm going light side here. I'm going to let Knack have his moment and support him totally and say, hey, look, man.
I can't. No one can top that.
No, yeah, I'm not even gonna attempt to. There's no reason to.
But can I just say one thing though? I agree with you in the soundtrack, and I feel that if I made a movie and I put John Williams in to do my soundtrack, it will be the best movie in the world. Even though I suck. Even though
about rearranging your sock drawer and have John Williams do the music, and it'll be great.
I could take a dump. And John Williams does the soundtrack to that, and it'll be like the most beautiful thing you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah, pretty much, man. Pretty freaking much. Baz, any closing words?
Nah, man. I look forward to your Last Jedi whooping. When's that gonna happen?
Here it goes. I'm not even gonna get my fucking Knack moment. Okay, it's just gonna be going, and this is what made it really good, and everyone's just gonna be going, boo, bullshit, fucking throwing tomatoes at me like it's Batman Returns and shit, and I'm fucking trying to duck behind the cabbage and the fucking tomatoes. But
Rob, I love you, man. It's all good, man. You know, when we had that conversation behind the scenes, I just. I didn't know you yet, and it was like, God, what am I I was like, I'm going on this guy's show, so it's like his narrative. What am I walking into, kind of thing. And I just didn't want to go and be all, have like this big negative thing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
No,
but,
totally.
yeah.
That's why I'm trying to stay away from that. Like I started it off with, I hate these fucking movies in the beginning, and then kind of just try to keep it like this is what I liked.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, it's one of the things. It's kind of sad to see the Star Wars community be torn apart like this recently, with all the negativity and all this stuff. It's because we're all Star Wars fans, whether you liked it or you didn't like it. You're gonna say to yourself, "I'm a Star Wars fan." Just as long as you're a fan, we could have a nice, peaceful debate, and without getting at each other's throats, and just as long as the person is willing just to see the other person's point, and don't have to agree with it, but just see it. Don't have to say, "Oh, I'm going to agree with you." Just look at it from his point of view. I agree. With you, Rob. Like, there are many things about this movie that doesn't sit well, but for me, I'm a Star Wars fan also, and I just I take it for what it is, and it's just one of those things. Like, I love all this, regardless of Last Jedi hate or love. I still love all Star Wars related stuff.
Yeah, no, totally, man. And
I think it all comes from a place of love and extreme fandom. I mean, it is the modern myth of our day, Star Wars.
Yeah.
So that's why we
sorry.
argue over it so much, and it's only one canon. It's not like you have a multiverse, It's like,
and I just hope that at some point, because really, Marvel did an awesome job with the way they did things, and I hope at some point that Star Wars is able to do something like that, where they have a vision and not an end game, but where they want to see the franchise be 10 years from now. Whether it be with making other movies that coincide with the movie. I don't need to read 20 books to understand a scene in the movie. I don't want to do that. Just do what Marvel's doing, where everything's kind of connected at some point.
Yeah. Okay, good news is the Mandalorian series. They casted two really good actors.
Yeah,
Gina Carano.
Yep.
Whom I'm a big fan of, and the guy who played Oberyn in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, and he's in Narcos too. He's one of the cops. And
it's being directed, obviously, and created with Jon Favreau, who can do no wrong, in my opinion. Yeah. I loved Iron Man. God, here it goes. Another fucking half hour. I actually liked Iron Man 2, whatever. I think Jon Favreau could do no wrong, so I think he's going to do a great job with it.
Yeah, so with Jon Favreau, just real quick, I'm sorry to take up anyone's time here, because I know we're past the mark. But Jon Favreau is working with the guy who directed Clone Wars, which is, oh my gosh, it's so late, I can't even think right now. What's his name? Dave Filoni. Dave Filoni, right. Who is a protege of George Lucas, but George Lucas is helping them, and he's there on set. I don't know if you saw the picture of Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, and George Lucas. It's in good hands, and this is probably going to be the best Star Wars TV show storytelling ever.
I'll tell you what it's reminding me of. What it's shaping up to be. I think this TV show is going to have the best parts of Rogue One, which we're obviously going to get to when we get to the sequel trilogy. Even though it's not part of that, that's kind of falls in that because we don't have an episode 9 yet to debate and talk about. But I think it's going to have the grit and grim and bleakness of episode 4 and Rogue One, because those movies are very close in look and style. And I think that Jon Favreau knows how to do fun and adventure excellently. So you're going to have the best parts of the look of Rogue One mixed with the adventureness of, like, let's say, Solo. So I think we're in fucking. I think we got good and bright days ahead of us.
That will bring the fan base back together.
I hope so. Just to kind of mirror what Baz just said. The thing is that I think why people just we just throttle each other's throats sometimes about Star Wars is that it truly is our Le Morte d'Arthur. It is our Odyssey, our Iliad in modern day. And we all have our own headcanon about how we think it should be. and those expectations. And, you know, when it doesn't live up to that, you know, in certain people's minds, whether you're talking about the prequels trilogy or the sequel trilogy, because we all agree that the original trilogy is just awesome. But, you know, we all have those expectations. We all have those those, you know, inclinations of where it should be. We do tend to, you know, if it doesn't live up to those standards either way, we do tend to kind of lash out about it, because it is just so important to so many people, you know.
The thing is because you can't reboot it. You know, it's like if they do a shitty version of Superman, they could always just, you know, write in a new Superman, new story, new cast him again, say it's from another Earth, or, you know, Star Wars. That's it. Whatever is in the movies, that's canon. You have to live with it.
Well, they did it with Star Trek, and it sucked ass. So, you know.
Yeah.
Well, look, man. If Phantom Menace didn't kill Star Wars, The Last Jedi is not going to kill Star Wars. Let's not do that right now. So anyways, I want to thank everybody for being with us. Baz is the man. Knack's the man. Thank you, Sinister Collector. Obviously, Paradox Nerd, you are the man as well. Thanks everybody that was in the chat. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Like the video.
Like the video.
Yes, like the video. This is important. You got to like the video. And go and subscribe to everybody else that was with us today. You have the Source Wall with Baz. You have the Paradox Nerd. And you have Knack's Plastic Planet. Small little preview of next week. I'm going to have a writer on the show. I don't think we're going to be doing the next Star Wars episode. That'll probably get shifted to the week after, which will be the first week in December, where we'll be attacking the original trilogy. So next week we will have a guest appearance from a comic writer, a novelist on the show as well. The guy calls himself Maverick or something. So we'll tackle that next week. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Don't go anywhere. I want to catch you guys behind the scenes real quick. And again, everybody, find us on social media, follow us, and start sending some messages to the Facebook official Red Cup Review if you guys got any ideas for shit you want us to talk about, topics, stuff like that. Write in. It's like the modern day fan mail and all that type of bullshit. So. Last words. Other than that, good night, fellas, and good night to the chat. Nobody?
Take care, guys. See you next time.
I love you guys.
Thank you for having me on your show, Red Cup. Really appreciate
man.
it.
You are always welcome here. We are a welcoming family here, no matter what movie you like.
This was funner than playing on my wet banana, man. This is a great time. Thanks, guys.
Take care, everybody. We'll catch you on the next episode of the Red Cup Review.
Take care, guys.
May the force be with you.
Midichlorians for life.
With you.